It is January 21st, 2025. I got to get used to saying that. Welcome to Heart Center Marketing. My name is Joey Ragona. I have my good friend Rebecca Mountain waiting in the green room, the blue room, whatever color she decides to paint it this time around. And we're going to have a fun time because, I haven't spoken to you since I can't remember now. It's been a little while, but here we are in the new year again. A fan fave because he just brings so much energy. So so happy to have you here. How you doing?
Oh, absolutely amazing. Every day is a good day. I love Tuesdays because for my coaching program, it's the peer coaching day. So we get everybody in a pile, and I always start with a really good question. And today's question was, "What's your word for 2025?" And we had some really great words come out that sparked some discussions as people broke off into their group. So it was a good day.
Yeah. What were some cool words? What's your word first of all for the year?
Oh, my word is fun.
Nice.
I can get myself pretty anxious and tied up in knots and worried about this and stressed about that. But if I look at everything as like, what can I do to make sure that all I'm doing is I'm having fun? Then you can't
Yeah.
be stressed out if you're having a fun time. You're like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just having fun, like whatever. And it reduces all the stress, it breaks down barriers and that. So my word is fun. So words
Nice.
that people came out with, there was a couple of people who had the word boundary. And these are my people pleasers. They're like, I need to stand up for myself. I can say yes to people and then also
Yep.
yes to me. It's not a yes no, it's a yes, but I have to
Yep.
create boundaries so that I can say yes, I can help you in this time frame or in this way or like what have you. Calm, innovative, inspiring, so people want to be an inspiration. They want to build thought leadership, so they want to inspire other people. What else do they have? Oh, consistency and commitment. Those were some big words as well that kind of came through. Growth, income, and then an immediate apology of like, oh, well, I know you're not supposed to. And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
judgment. If you say because so many people say, well, you're not supposed to, I hate those words. You're not supposed to like publicly say that you're out there to make more money. And yet we are, because money brings freedom, which is another word. It brings opportunity. It
One hundred
gives us a
percent.
chance to do something with our money. And so I'm like, never apologize when money is a goal. Ever apologize. You just
Yeah.
like
That
run
was
that
me
thing all the way to the
before.
sunset.
I had
Mm-hmm.
that whole limit as well. I don't want to. I'm not here to make money. I don't want to make so much money, X amount. And then once I
Yeah.
realized that there was a difference, because I believe there's only two camps: people that just are all about money, and the other people are like mission driven and about making a bigger impact in the world and all that.
Sure.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
was looking at the money driven people. It's like money, 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 money. I'm like, then I realized that people like us, mission driven people, we need to make way more money than money driven people because we have more to
Mm-hmm.
give, like more of a mission. Yes, we want a great life, we
Mm-hmm.
want to buy a car, whatever we want to do. Doesn't No judgment, like you said. So now
Mm-hmm.
I'm always saying, yeah, I want to make a crap ton of money because I want to be able to give 50% of it away, if not even more. I just want to make a whole bunch of money,
Sure.
have a really, really great life, and just here you go. I want to be able to give it
Mm-hmm.
away. So I I
Yep.
honor you that you're giving them permission. Kind of sounds like that, right? To say, listen,
Yeah, it is.
it's all good. It's all good to talk about money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Giving props up to. I'm just looking down here, by the way, at my iPad because it's the only way I can get the what do you call them? The comments from the Facebook
Mm-hmm.
group to the live. So if you see me looking down, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not watching cat videos. Well, I am, but that's on my other phone over here.
That's okay. I
Uh,
can just keep talking.
yeah, Collie, good to
God
see you
help
here.
you if you leave it over to me and you don't intervene. Ha
You know what?
ha! It's
Look,
over.
did I show you that?
Oh no.
Yeah, it's my
Yeah,
one of
well,
my latest.
I've got my own book. So this is my latest book. Stillness is the
Ah,
key.
nice one.
And yeah. So you know what my clients have said to me. So I have a very good relationship with my clients. They're like, "So are you taking out stock in duct tape?" And I'm like, no, why? It's kind of odd. They're like, because you're going to have to tape yourself to the floor to do this. And I'm like, oh, ha ha. Oh, ye of little faith, hold my beer. Here we go.
Yeah. All right.
Ay, ay,
Let's get into
ay.
today's topic, which is about high performance.
Woohoo.
So I'll let you take the lead because I know you created the
Mhm.
mountain method, I guess, with
I
we're talking
did.
about too, right? With all kinds of high performance. So I really like talking about high performance. I don't know if I would call myself a real high performer, but I get a lot of stuff done, a lot of achievement done. So I think it's going to be a really
Mhm.
interesting conversation from someone like you who is like, oh my God, you're like the top, you're like just 1,000% high performer. And then someone from me where
Try.
like a middle ground, and did you know, I don't know if you know this, but I think it was, I can't remember how long ago this was, had to be over 5 years, if not longer, where I was going to be a high performance coach with Brendan. And I went through the whole thing. And I'm like, I got to there. One of my good friends who led the coaching, who you see her on here, Lauren, uh,
Mhm.
she she led the whole coaching thing with Brendan. And I remember going through the whole thing. And then I said to her, look, here's a certification. Like, what is it all about? Do you think I'm going to be a good fit for this? Because she went actually to some of my coaching before that, and she advised me not to do it. Not because it was a bad thing, but she said, you know what, this is not for you, because of the way the structure was. Because I had to
Mhm.
follow like this, I guess this plan, like
I
here,
know.
do this first,
I
right?
got certified. I
Oh,
went
did
through the
you? Oh,
certification.
okay. So
I
you know what I'm
did. I
talking
paid the
about, right?
$10,000. Oh yeah, I did
Yeah,
that. I was a
I paid
certified
it
high
as well,
performance
but I
coach
got it
until
back.
last year.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
good. They usually
So
don't give it back.
I pulled out because it was right away.
Mm.
It was real quick. And I don't know if they've changed it. Like, I don't know if you still have to go through that whole process of no, start
Mhm.
it,
You
module
do.
number one or lesson number one. And for me, it was like, how can I do that? Because if they already know this stuff, why would I not bounce to the next piece and help them move? But anyway, nothing against that whole thing. But
Mhm. Yep.
yeah, so high performance is one of those things I studied a lot. So I'm really interested in this conversation. What do you got? Let's start off with what are we gonna go with?
Well, let's start off with high performance coaching as certified through Brendan's program, the High Performance Institute. Um, when I first got certified, it's very much ask this question, this question, this question, da 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 da, wrap it up, go, and go to the next one. It's a really good program if you have no idea how to do coaching, like, and you really feel
Mm,
insecure and you need a structure. So it's good for people like that. It's terrible to get people to actually grow a coaching business. But what
mm,
I loved about it was the science that was behind it. So the
right,
science behind it, I could get behind because I'm like, okay, this isn't some guy's idea, right? Or like cobbling together a bunch of different sources or books or articles or whatever. This is like someone did a study and this was the result. So that's why I got certified because I'm like, I want something based on science and something that's
nice.
real. But over the years, I'm not going to disparage the program, but it wasn't real. And there was some things that were starting to bubble up that I'm like, yeah, this doesn't align with who I am. And like you said, everyone comes at it from a different perspective. So what I did was I took the 6 habits of high performance that have been, statistically proven to deliver higher income, stronger relationships, and greater happiness and fulfillment. And that's what I made sure that people could do. The other thing I did is I've got a survey that grades people on those habits of high performance so they can actually see, am I or am I not a high performer? Because you don't know. Like, I don't know, am I really good at productivity? Do I suck at courage? Like, am I clear on what I need to be clear about? And then, I did that for a long time, but I always felt there was something missing, and this is where I came up with the mountain method. And the
Mm,
mountain method is, yes, it sounds funny because it's my last name, but it's a triangle program, and I've mentioned it before as my authority model, but I just named it the mountain
cool,
method because
cool.
one side is the 6 habits of high performance. Because I
Mm,
truly believe that if you can perfect those habits of high performance, clarity, energy, courage, productivity, influence, and necessity, you will be consistent. You will do better. You will, increase your income and increase your joy. Because I applied it and it worked. And I applied it to my clients and it works. So I have not just anecdotal proof, I have actual statistical proof for myself that this stuff works. But what was missing, I felt, were two things. One was the mindset piece and the emotion piece, because those were kind of alluded to, but it's more like, oh, you just need to have good habits. And I'm like, pretty sure there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
Because I was doing a lot more research on like neuroscience and the psychology of why people do stuff and why they don't do stuff. And emotional irregulation turned out to be a very, very big factor as to whether or not someone was successful, if not the most important factor. And so I started to kind of mess around with it a little bit. And oh, you should have seen my office, because I did it with like 1,000 sticky notes. And I would put thoughts and ideas on sticky notes and I would arrange them and then I'd
Wow.
rearrange them. My desk
Yeah.
was covered in these things. I had piles of things that I would then rearrange. And oh my God, it took me a couple of months to actually figure it out. And so what ended up coming out of that was the mountain method, which is a triangle. So the idea is that you are striving to achieve peak performance. So now we can use all these terms like, there's trail markers, and, you want to lighten your load. You don't want to carry things unnecessarily, right? Because then you have a hard time climbing your mountain to achieve that peak performance, whether it's, and business, life, and love. Everything should be centered around peak performance in all three of those areas of life. So we have aligned beliefs on the one side, and that's where I start. So the mountain
Okay.
method, you can't get out of base camp without asking yourself, how do you feel? Right? Says, if you don't feel like going to the gym, you're not going to the gym. If you don't feel like doing the work, you're not doing the work. I have clients who they know exactly what they need to do, but it scares the poopers out of them. So they are sending emails, reworking their website, they're creating landing pages that they've never done before. They're, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, stop. Please
Yeah,
stop.
they're stuck in
Because
activity and not productivity.
right, which is the big problem with just focusing on high performance or just focusing on how to. I can give you the most silver bullet idea in the world. I gave it to her. I've given it to all my clients. This is
Mm-hmm.
what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
ones that actually do it see the results, but the ones that don't do it, they just never get started because the emotional boulder in their path appears so big and insurmountable they can't move forward.
So let's
And
talk about the
so they
emotional
stay where
part
they
of
are.
that. Let's talk about
Sure.
the emotional part of it, because I like that
Favorite.
you brought that up. What what tips do you have for that? Because I do have some notes on
Oh
emotional
boy.
intelligence here as well that maybe we can talk about, bounce back and forth. What are your
Sure.
thoughts?
Well, the first place to start is to give your emotions a name, because once you actually give it a space and you call it its name and you bring it into the world, it no longer resides just in your emotion brain. It actually connects with your thinking brain, because we have three brains. We have an emotion brain, a thinking brain, and a logic brain. One,
Mm-hmm.
two, three. The emotion brain kicks off first, and it creates a physical reaction, right? With sweaty palms, pounding hearts, all that kind of stuff. And we cannot stop that. We can't stop the comparison effect, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, which is people pleasing, feed, which is addiction. All those things reside in that emotion part of the brain. And if we don't control it, if we don't understand it, then it will rule the day. And we respond emotionally to everything. So we build up stress, we build up stories, we build up all these conjectures as to what we believe to be true when it's nowhere near. When you give your emotions a name, it's almost like you're calling it out, and it has to step forward, and then your thinking brain can start connecting and start processing it. And if you start processing what you're feeling, then you actually get somewhere. So the thing I love to torture all my clients with is one of these feeling wheels.
Yeah.
They're amazing, right? And that anyone, if any one of my clients was listening to this right now, they're like, oh my God, there it is again. And I'm like, yeah. And I do that because as adults, we over time slowly lose our ability to articulate what we feel.
Yeah.
And we narrow it down to three words: happy, sad, mad. But our brain can't do anything with that. It's not specific enough. It's not articulate enough. And it's just like, well, okay, well, let me know when you got something I can work with. I'm mad. What kind of mad? Right? If you look at this, mad can be anything from jealous, selfish, frustrated, furious, irritated, skeptical, critical, hateful, rage, um, angry, hostile, hurt. All those things are more articulate ways of describing how you're feeling. And when you just sit for a second and think, what's actually going on here? I'm reacting to something, what's actually happening, and then you say, oh, I'm actually feeling this, that, or the other. Then your full brain engages. You skip what's called the amygdala hijack, where your emotions overwhelm the senses and your thinking and logic brain stop working. So if you can't control your feelings, and not that you need to not have them, but simply that you recognize that everything you go through in life is going to create some sort of an emotional experience. And if you're sitting down to do something important, and like say just picking up your phone, right? My absolute favorite. Picking up the phone is hard. Ooh, look how light this thing is. Look at me working out. Right? It's not. It's quite easy, but we make it hard for all the different reasons that we had.
Yeah.
If you can sit down to make a call, feel fear, and do it anyway, then you have conquered your emotional dragon. You have conquered the obstacle, and through repeated exposure, it will become smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So, of course, I've got my book, The Dragon and the Goat, and I talk about that part of our brain being the dragon, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the lizard part of our brain, but I call it the dragon because it's more fun. I always say you want to have your dragon in your pocket. That's how big your dragon should be. If it is a giant boulder and it's like, thou shalt not pass, it's way too big and is distorting your vision.
Yeah.
So, the number one thing in emotional resilience is shrinking the emotion to a point where you can handle it, right? Not too
Right.
hot to handle, not too
Right.
big to be distorting, not too much that we would like bounce off it and sit in our butts and just think so they're going, well, now what do I do? Because trust
Right.
me, people will, like, if you can imagine, that's why, of course, I'm a very visual person. So imagine you're walking up a path and there's a giant boulder in front of you, and you look at this thing and you're like, oh, wow, like this is really big. And instead of actually trying to find a way around it, you just kind of wait for someone to come lift it for you, or just wait for it to move. But you don't actually challenge the boulder. You don't have to push it. You start building a tent and maybe build a little village, and then you may have some snacks, right? But you go no further. You don't take a single step further because that boulder is in the way, and you just haven't figured out and haven't explored ways of removing it. And
Right.
that's why people don't do important work, and that's why they stay anxious. That's why we have a spike in depression, in quitting, in anxiety, and worry, because people haven't learned, and we're not really taught anymore. And I'm really hoping this is why I do what I do, because I want to turn this tide. I want to show people how to cope with the craziest emotions they could possibly cook up and feel like they're going to survive it.
Yeah.
And you
That's a big
start with
thing.
actually literally naming it.
Yeah, it's a big thing because it ties in with the way that I approach it is knowing what the emotional triggers are first. And then I haven't done a lot of the
Mhm.
emotional, like, what is this emotion? Like, what naming the thing? But, what is the emotional trigger, first of all? Because, it's always for me about bookkeeping and stuff like that. I know that there's huge
Mhm.
emotional triggers for me when I start doing that. And I
Mhm.
learned a long time ago, and I'll give credit to Edmund Pagan because he's the one that taught me this, which was on ramps and off ramps. So what is the on ramp to that? That's the trigger. Like, what's the on ramp of
Mhm.
me getting this emotion all the time, and then just change the on ramp. That was all. That was the only thing. And so it's basically looking at, like you said, pause and respond techniques. So when I'm getting anxiety or whatever you want to call it, when I have to do something that I don't really want to do, now the on ramp used to be, screw it, I'm gonna go watch Netflix, I'm gonna go take a nap or whatever. That's how I used to deal with it.
Mhm.
Now the on ramp is different. It's more of, no, pause and reflect and take a second here. What can you do for 10 minutes? So I like to I use this with all my clients as well, which is the 10 10 10, which is what can you do in 10 minutes right now that is going to help you move just a little bit forward. It could just be as simple as opening the program or whatever, right? Organizing some of the papers you got to deal with. And so that's one of the ways that I've changed the game for me, or changed the way that I react to something that I don't want to do. It's all about
Mhm.
that emotion, right? Identifying. So I don't know if I go to the level of naming it, but I know what my emotional triggers are, and then changing the emotion. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
no,
cool.
absolutely. There's a process called RAIN that I have learned and used successfully and teach, which stands for recognize, acknowledge and accept, investigate and nurture. So what you're
Mm,
talking about is that first one, recognize something is going on and I need to kind of, pause for a second.
right.
if you go through as part of the recognition process, um, I would highly recommend you add in naming the emotion, because as part of recognizing, okay, something's happening, I'm feeling something, what am I feeling? Right? What are some of the words that I can use to describe what it is? Accepting and acknowledging is the next step that a lot of people try to skip, which is you're supposed to be anxious. You're supposed to be scared.
Yeah, I
You're
totally
supposed to
accept
feel
it.
guilt and
Yeah.
shame. And a lot of people don't, right? They're like, I'm not supposed to. I'm going to stuff this feeling down.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Don't be scared. Don't be angry. Don't be sad. We hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're supposed to be scared. Like one of my clients are like, oh, I'm so scared. I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to be. You've never done this before, or you've had a completely different approach to this, then you're changing it now. And if you do this, you're going to double your income. And that scares you because it gives you financial freedom to do what you want that you've
Yep.
never had because
Yep.
you were told you didn't deserve it. So you're busting through several different layers of comfort zones here. You're supposed to be scared. So if
Hmm.
you acknowledge and accept it, you're like, then you stop fighting it and suppressing it. Then again, it allows you, more latitude to be able
How
to,
many
keep those emotions going.
how many conversations do you have around the fear of success?
Probably about 50% of my clients.
Yeah, it's just so it now it's normal for me to understand that, but it was so weird
Mhm,
when it was first brought to my
mhm,
attention many, many, many years ago. Of like, you're scared of success, and I go, how can it, how can I be scared of success? I want to make more
mhm.
money. I want to be successful. I want my business to work, and then there's this fear of success. So can you touch on that a
Yep.
little bit?
For sure. People are afraid of success because it's another reason why they don't get coaching. They're like, if I get coaching and I become successful and I double my business, they think it's doubling the workload. But that's not necessarily the case. So the what people envision, this is always has to do with their workload and the misunderstanding they have with what growth should actually look like. So if I say to them, double your income, they're like, then I have to double the work,
Ah,
not
okay.
what could I do to lessen the workload to allow me to double it? How can I be more efficient? Their brain doesn't go there. It goes immediately into fear because double your income sounds like a threat to your brain. And so that's why people are worried about it. Or they're
Oh,
like, people launching coaching programs. I help people do that. Coaching, consulting, speaking, writing books, all that kind of a thing. And they're like, oh my God, like, what if I get 20 clients? And I'm like, dude, I'll give you a medal if you get 20 clients in like 3 days after posting one thing on social media. Like, seriously. It just doesn't happen. But they don't think, because they get so afraid of it, they don't think, well, just say I've got 10 spots, and after 10 spots, create a wait list. Like, you control the world. They just think they're so out of control. And
oh,
that's
okay.
the root of fear of failure and fear of success, that I can't control the tap. I can't, I don't, I'm going to turn it on, and then the tap is going to break, and then I can't turn it off, which
Mm.
is
It's interesting that you say that.
diabolically untrue.
Yeah, it totally is because when clients come to me, they're usually pre-sold, and I think it's because of the messaging that I put out, which goes totally opposite of what you're talking about. Not that what you're saying is wrong; it's just a counterintuitive to people because my whole one of the things I say is simplify 96% of your business, and you let go of pretty much everything, and you can still grow double, 10 times X, whatever. So when they
Yep.
finally get that, it's kind of this BS meter to them. Like, how can you do that? Which opens up a huge conversation for them because if I believe what you're saying is true, then these people who are like, no, to double I need to do double the work, or to 10 times I need to do 10 times the amount of work. And then you got me out there saying like, dude, look, no, you're going to let go of 96% of what you're doing and still be able to grow. That now makes a lot more sense
Mhm.
to me because I never looked at it from the point of view that double your income means double the amount of work. And so I think, thank you for letting me know that, because I just learned something that
Mhm.
I'm going to focus on more, because
Mhm.
and I'm going to start to use that. I'm going to start to say people think, so I'll steal a little bit of your
Go for it.
of your stuff, and just say, look, people think that the if you want to double your business, you need to do double the amount of work, and that's absolutely not true. In fact, I'm going to show you how to
Nope.
do this. So yeah, bonus. All
No, no,
right. So
and I have my own process that I say double the work, double the income and, half the work.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
every single time, if I do that in a public forum, there is someone out there publicly or afterward that calls BS on me. And they're not
Yeah.
very nice about it either. They just think I'm just blowing sunshine up everybody's ass. And I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, I asked them the question, when I say double your income, do you think that that requires you to double your work? And they're
Yeah.
absolutely in that camp. And I'm like, okay, are you willing to change your mind on that? Because there are ways of becoming more efficient, which allow you more time to do the revenue generating stuff as opposed to the things that
100%.
hold you down. And sometimes most often they're not, because they heard me and they actually heard something that challenges their worldview, and then they become
Yeah.
entrenched.
Yeah.
So I just usually let them go. You cannot convince those people, but that there are a subset of people, and they will never be convinced, and that's okay. They're just
Yeah,
not
I
candidates
don't really get
for
involved in those
coaching.
conversations. I'm talking about the ones who DM me and say, "What does this unfunnel mean?" or "What is this 96? How do you get rid of all that stuff? What do you mean by that?" And
Mhm.
then when I explain it to them very quickly, they're like, "Oh my god, I never thought of it that way." Because they've been so,
Yep.
like, their worldview has been,
Mhm.
painted by this whole thing. For me, it's all about funnels and ripping apart everything and basically having nothing. And they're like,
Mhm.
"How can that work?" Say, "Well, how did you get here?" Like, I explain it to them in a way where it's like, "This is how you
Mhm.
got here. Did you go through a funnel? Did you do this? Did you go to a landing page? Did you opt in?" All of these things. And they're like, "No, I saw, X amount of videos, or I saw you on a webinar or whatever, and then DM'd you or something." And I'm like, "There you go."
Mhm.
So it's an
Mhm.
easy thing for me. So I don't really get into a lot of flame thingies and threads about that because I don't talk about it a lot there. But it's interesting because, I'm thinking just about my own community of
Mhm.
mentioning that more. That you might think this. You might think that,
Mhm.
you know, increasing your business means an increase in all the stuff that you don't like doing. You already don't like
Mhm.
doing this stuff. It doesn't mean that. It
Mhm.
means, X amount. So yeah, that's a total eye opener. So again, thank
Yeah.
you for that. I'm hoping that everybody
Yeah, you're welcome.
got something from that too. By the way, let us know if you're here with a hashtag live, hashtag replay. If you got any questions for Rebecca, for myself, let us know. I am monitoring down here, like you can see me, right, my iPad, and
Have
for
videos.
anything in the Facebook group, and also in the other platforms. I've got them over here, so let us know the question. All right, cool. What else you got? So we got
Well,
emotional stuff, and then what's the next piece that
yeah.
we?
So the mountain method has three main sort of pillars, three main sort of areas. The first is aligned beliefs, of which emotional resilience is one of them.
Right.
Your thoughts and your assumptions is the second one, because what you feel and what you think becomes what you do. So it's not
Right.
enough just to get in touch with, oh, I'm feeling this, or I'm having a reaction to that, and doing all that stuff we just talked about. You have to understand how your thoughts will now contribute to it, and how your thoughts can then change your emotions. So it's a process called Mind Over Mood, from the book of that name. So we go through that. We go through challenging your stories and your assumptions about the world, and like to really try to push a new world view, because what you think in here is what you see out here, right? So if you want to see opportunity, you got to think that opportunities exist. If you tell yourself this is hard, guess what? Your brain's going to be like, "Ooh, wow, this is hard," and make up some BS story. Whereas if you're like, "This is fun," I actually like talking to people and seeing what their challenges are. You're going to pick this thing up, and you're going to be like, "Beep boop, beep boop, Cheryl, I'm here for you. How can I help you?" Right? What questions do you got? Lay it on me. So there's that. And then the third piece of that one, the first pillar of aligned beliefs, is your internal compass. Are you worried about yourself, or are you comparing yourself and worried about what the world is doing? Are you trying to live up to someone
Yeah.
else's
Yeah.
standards, or are you trying to live up to your own? So it's about, putting the metrics in your front yard, not in somebody else's. So those are the first three steps of the mountain method,
Mm.
which is all under aligned beliefs. The next piece, the second pillar, is called decisive action. So it's not just taking actions, it's being very decisive. And that starts with contribution, which is, who is your ideal client? Who do you need to adjust yourself to become more attractive to said client? And then what services actually solve the problem of the client that you're delivering? And is it aligned with who you are and your best self? So it's like best client, best self, best service. And when you define those three
Yep.
things and you align them together, you'll always do the work you want to do with the people you want to do it with, delivering services that actually solve an actual problem, right? So
Yep.
it's that piece. And a lot of people wonder, like, well, why didn't you skip to doing stuff? And I'm like, because you don't know who you're doing it for, and you
Yep.
don't know if you're going to be someone who's attractive to that kind of a person. Like, they should be able to walk into, a video like this or your socials or the room or whatever and go, you there now, me working, go. Right.
Yep.
So, but you have to make sure that you've got everything together. So that's called contribution. The second piece of decisive action is what role you play. And this is where it comes into, yours is reducing 96%. I have my adore process, which is stop doing everything and start narrowing the landscape, right? Like, you shouldn't be doing all of the work. If you want to charge $500 an hour, don't do something that someone can get paid $15 an hour to do,
Yep.
because that's the salary you're paying yourself. And all the systems and processes that allow you to deconstruct that without
Yep.
abdicating leadership, because people are like, but I can do it better. Yeah, and you can stay exactly where you are doing what someone else can do, even at like 85 to 90% as good as you. You will stay exactly where you are, and you'll probably start to decline because you're going to start burning out. So
Right.
burnout or growth, you pick. And I teach people how to be leaders, because that's what they're afraid they can't be, and that's why people hold on to work, because not that they think that no one can do it, they don't trust themselves to be a good enough leader to set the expectations, the boundaries, the parameters, to provide the
Mm-hmm.
training and the feedback,
Mm-hmm.
so that someone can do the job just like them. I just took a real estate team here where I live in Burlington, team of 10, and we mapped out painful step by painful step every single process. You do
Right.
this, and then this person does this, which goes to this, and you have this much time to do this, and da 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 da. And we have like the snakes and ladders things that go all the way down.
Yep.
With that, we created training videos. So the whole team actually contributed, and they sort of split it up with a group, and they would follow the process and create training videos. What this does is it makes onboarding really super simple,
Yep.
right? Because you don't have to like teach them all this kind of stuff. And then what happened was they created performance parameters. What does it mean to be successful for this team? What is the gold standard for this team? It had been
Right.
suggested, it had been alluded to, it had been like follow the lead of the team lead, but it had never been articulated. So now it's like, if you follow this process and you live up to these standards, which is like hit 80% of your goal and make the calls you're supposed to make and do the things you're supposed to do, not rocket science. And the system literally feeds this to people. So here's the calls you have to make. Here's the email you need to send. You don't have to go figure it out. It literally feeds it out. All you got to do is execute. So if you can execute in a consistent way on these processes at this level to generate these results, you're going to hit the A team. And with an
Right.
A team, as you can imagine, there's a B team. And the
Right.
B team doesn't step up, doesn't do the process, doesn't follow, doesn't show up, doesn't do all the things that they could do, which is really easy to do, right? Because it's all mapped out. And so if you're not going to put in the effort, the team isn't going to put in the effort. So as soon
Right.
as you want to step up and generate the results you can have, because everyone knows what the standard is now, you can flip into the A team, where you get leads and mentorship and coaching and other opportunities. But if you're not going to make an opportunity for yourself just to simply step up and follow the basics, the team has no obligation to you. And it's really frickin' cutthroat. And I love it
Yeah.
because
I
it's great. Because the team lead spent most of her time worried about, like, do I have a team or not? Should I have a team or not? And anyone who has a team has thought that at some point. Should I keep doing this, or can I just fire everybody and do it all myself? Right? That's the most
yeah.
extreme version. You
Yeah,
don't
no, it
have to
starts with
do that,
yeah,
right?
that's how it
Go ahead.
begins. I mean, as a solopreneur my entire life, that's what it was. It's like, why I just do this myself. And even
Yeah.
when it was, well, the camcorder method I learned, I don't know how long ago, like a decade ago, just record everything you do and put all
Mhm.
that's going to take me too long to do. And it's going to take me 10 minutes to send this email, but it's going to take me 30 minutes to record myself doing the process and explaining how to send the freaking email. So I'll do that later. Right. And when I finally got out of
Right.
that mode, which was a year, more than a year ago, man, I've got, I don't know how many processes now, like over 500 of them sitting in Notion, and built one, my assistant now, my personal assistant, all with just letting go of that. And all we're doing is
Mhm.
always updating, like even today, there was something that came up, like, we should actually do this one little thing we already had a process for it, but then add in this one little other little thing. And it's so easy to do. And by the way, by anybody listening to this, here's a recommendation, which I learned for the camcorder method. I was recording. I still do. I record everything, and I was putting videos in, right, and then screenshots and all that kind of stuff. But once that goes wrong, like one thing changes in the software application or the platform or whatever, that video's null and void. Like it's basically done. So if you're doing that right now, it's great to record it, and then what I do now is I just I transcribe it and I put it into GPT, and I've got a GPT that says just pull the SOPs out of this for me, and then now it's a text SOP, and yeah, we might have a screenshot which you can easily replace if it's there, but don't. I would advise anybody not to have just videos sitting there as the
Mhm.
SOP itself that people have to watch, because then it's
Mhm.
outdated. So go into a text
Yeah.
document. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. The
I'm
other thing you
totally
could
with
also
you.
do the other thing you can do with those SOPs is create a whole bunch of tiny videos that you could like split up the process into pieces. So if one
Yeah.
piece needs to be broken, you can replace it. But yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
always a risk as soon as you put something in video or text
Yeah.
or anything. So yeah, it's a matter of if something changes, can you make the adjustment quickly? And video is hard
Quickly.
to adjust quickly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's the way
definitely
I've even
something.
done that
Yeah.
too. Like, so I'm using, if you want to get technical on it, I'm using Snagit for all that stuff. And what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting them into like little pieces. So it's one shot, cut
Mhm.
them into it. And it's also taking the screenshot so they don't have to watch the
Mhm.
video. But even if it's a 1 minute video, there's still a screenshot of like here, point there. So you're absolutely right. You can go in and just, you know, put that piece out. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Like it's so important to have the team process in place,
Mhm.
and you getting away. We even talked about it today on Academy, my group coaching call, which is we talked about. I forget I know who I got this from, which was Perry Marshall way back in, I forget the book it was, marketing book of some kind, and he was talking about tasks. Like it was $10 task, $100 tasks, $1,000 tasks,
Mhm.
and $10,000 tasks. And it's funny we're talking about this today because I did a presentation today on some of this stuff, and so I said to them, look, you got to make a couple of lists. And one of the lists that I suggested everybody do is a list of everything they're doing every day. So like, what is it that you do?
Mhm.
And then you take like everything that you do, and then you take that list and then you put it into those categories. Is this a $10 task? Is it a $100 task? Right. And like you said, get
Right.
away from those $10 and even $100 task. Like when I'm talking about $10, it's $10 per hour
Per
task.
hour. Yeah.
Get away from those, and so you can stay in the $1,000 and $10,000 per hour tasks, and then it's like, well, what are you doing every single day? And I realized as I was explaining this, that I was like, wow, I've really reduced a lot of the $10 and $100 per hour tasks, because there was another list we were doing of like, what are you doing to move the business forward? And I gave examples of what do you do every single day, and my examples were absolutely true, which is really only three things, which is creating content and talking to clients. And I think there was only two. Yeah, it was only two of them. That's what I do every single
Mhm.
day to move the business forward, and all of
Mhm.
the other stuff was gone. I was like, wow, this is so incredible. It's when you zoom out,
Mhm.
like anybody listening to
Mhm.
what we're talking about here, is when you zoom out because you're so in the weeds of every day, right? And like you did with your clients now, I guess you put on a whiteboard or you did something and sticky notes of all the painful processes of everything that's going on. Once you see it in front of you, you're like, holy crap, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Like I would never think to myself that there would be over 500 processes in my little tiny little business going on, and I'm still not even
Mhm.
done. Right?
Mhm.
Man,
Yeah,
incredible.
absolutely. Yep. So that is one little piece of decisive action. So we had contribution, we have roles, and then we get into growth because you can't get into doing business growing things if you
Yeah.
don't know who you're targeting, you don't know who you should be, your services are crappy, and you're doing too much work.
Yeah.
Like you won't be able to get to it. So it's pointless to be able to even work on any kind of growth strategy until we get here. But now we're at this point. If people are emotionally resilient, have mental acuity, a strong inner compass, they know who they're contributing to, and they're playing the right role, okay, now we can look at growth. But now I get into focused growth. So I have this really fun assessment that I borrowed and modified from Frank Kern from years ago, 7 years ago, when I was part of his private client group. And he used it for like best sales channel assessment. And that's basically what I use it for. So basically you rate all your sales channels along the line on the one side. And then for each one, you say over the past 12 months, how many clients did I get from that channel, right? So
Mm-hmm.
referrals or repeats or, real estate door knocking or email marketing or social media content, social media
Mm-hmm.
ads. You write down like your top five and you're like, how many clients can you say came from that source? Which usually freaks everyone out because they're like, I don't track that. And I'm like, well, that's your first problem. So, you got to fix that. But how many clients did you get? And then is working on this channel in your zone of genius, right? Dan Sullivan's
Yep.
unique ability circle. Is it in the core or is it in your excellent, good, or stinky? And you have to give it a score of 1 to 5. So 5 is like totally my wheelhouse, like teaching and like doing stuff like this. 5 for me. Networking, shoot me, just shoot me.
Me
I
too.
don't
Yeah.
don't like it at all, right?
Yeah.
And then so is it your zone of genius? I'm trying to remember this. Like, oh, you know what? I recorded this video today for my certification, so I actually have it right here. Joy giver is the second one. So you can be good at something and absolutely hate it. That's me in Facebook ads, right? I have PTSD with that stuff. So I'm good at it. I know how to do it. I understand the algorithm. I know the words, the phrasing, the storytelling, blah, blah, blah. But I hate it. I truly, truly hate it. So if you said grow your business through social media ads, that would be a 1. If you said grow your business by teaching, that'd be a 5 for me, right? Because it brings me joy to see one person take one freaking thing away. So then the
Yep.
next one is
Mm-hmm.
net profit, right? So ads are less profitable than referrals, right? So you have to kind of factor that in. So is there a cost to you to bring people through that channel? And then the last two are the clients easy to work with? So referrals and repeats are way easier to work with than a rando off the internet because they challenge you a little bit more. They don't know you as well. There's a getting to know you period. So they can be a little bit trickier to work with, or not, but you get to rate people. And then the last one is loyalty. Do they refer you? Do they talk about you to others? Are you their person forever and ever and ever? And then again, all of this is in a scale of 1 to 5. And then all you do is at the end. So here's a little chart here. Try to get in front of the right camera here.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. Right. So they near all the way across. And then down here, you have your total. You add it up. And whichever one has the highest score, that's the channel you should focus on. And what I
Nice.
do is I help people build a strategy around only that. So if that was the only way you're going to grow your business and I let people cheat and pick up to 3 channels that they can use. But that's it. And then what you can do is you can zero in and say, okay, what do we have? Like what technology, team, outsourcing partners, technology, what systems, checklists, templates, scripts, blah, blah. What do we have? And then what's missing? And then we make a list of what's missing. We prioritize the pieces of that particular area of focus. So say it's referrals. Everyone gets their business from referrals. 0.0% of people have a process for it. Like none. Like they don't have I do this. This is how I get them. This is how I follow up. This is my email. Like 0 people have those. So there's some low hanging fruit of not waiting for referrals to fall out of the sky, but actually actively seeking to get them to generate those referrals. And most people don't want to because it makes them squidgy because they have built this giant boulder of a thought that it's annoying for people when you ask them for a referral.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
ask for referrals all the time and I get them because I ask for them. But if you don't ask, you don't get, that kind of a thing. And so that is what happens in the growth phase of the mountain method, because now you've got the how-to stuff because you can focus on it, you can think through clearly, and some of the other wasteful, busy stuff is now off your plate. At this point, so we've done aligned beliefs, decisive action. Now we get into the 6 habits of high performance, and we just roll through each one of those bad boys, and we apply it to the growth, the contribution, the roles, the emotions, and all those kinds of things. All of that previous learning comes into play, and now we make it consistent and long term. And that's why the mountain method, which I've been testing for over a year, and I've been tracking results. And what I have found is that when I teach this and I structure it around this, not in a strict way like in Brendan's program, but I'm like, I score everybody and I'm like, okay, you're doing really great here, but you're a little weak over here. So I have a scoring assessment, the mountain method scoring, where you will literally get an overall score and then one for every single one of those 12 pieces, right? Emotions, thoughts, all the way around the horn. When I look at the coaching that I do, because it should be effective, that's how I determine if I'm successful or not how many clients I have or how much money I make, how successful are my clients. The
Exactly.
average increase in performance over a 3-month period is 9.3%.
Nice. Nice.
So imagine, and it's a real fun graphic when you throw in, if you just say, I want to grow my income by 2% a month, that's it. So it's this little line that do. When you add a 3.1 month over month performance improvement on top of that, it hockey sticks at
Mm-hmm.
approximately the month about 4.5, 5 on average. And by the time you're like done 1 year of the program, the amount of money that you save over and above the cost of the program stands somewhere at about $30,000. And that's averaging someone who's coming in at making $10,000 a month. So $10,000 a month, whose goal is to increase their income by 2%. You layer on high performance habits, emotions, thoughts, and practices, and you will net over and above the cost of the program, which ain't a cheap program. That'll rolled up for the whole year. It's just about $18,000. You make $30,000 on top of that. If you stay in the program for another year, that turns into $200,000. That's what
Right.
performance does. That's the difference. And when someone says to me, what's the difference between how-to coaching and performance coaching? It is taking the how-to and hockey sticking the results. So whether that's your clients, I did it with money because that's the easiest one for people to relate to, but that's what it should do. And if it's not doing that, then you're not practicing it. That's just
Mm-hmm.
simply the way it is. You've built an encampment around your boulders, around the obstacles that you believe are insurmountable, and you have sat your ass down and you're not moving. But as soon as you decide to stand up and move that boulder, climb over it, dig around it, get a crowbar, get it out of your way, then you start to actually receive these hockey stick type results.
Let's dive in a little bit to some specifics on high performance,
Sure.
and for anybody listening, any you know strategies that you have that you want to talk about. I've written down, like I talked about the 10 rule for me. I've written down a couple of other things like the time blocking methods, and we talk a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's the priority matrix system that I use, which is more like,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of it's kind of like an air traffic control for, like with the visual, like, you're a visual, so it's more like air traffic control, what needs landing
Yeah,
first,
great.
you
Love that.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep,
urgent and versus important and all that stuff. So anything like that
you
we
got
can
it.
give someone practical things to do to get themselves into a higher performance.
Well, let me get out the program that I'm teaching people on how to do this. I'm literally recording this as we go along, so I can tell you exactly what I'm telling people to do. Um, so up until now, we've focused on all the kind of emotional belief action type stuff. When you get into high performance, it takes a little bit of a different flavor, a little bit of a different turn, and so I'll go through the 6 habits of high performance because it gives people kind of an anchor. And these are the 6 habits that, there was a scientific study done, $5 million study that asked a bazillion people, what is it they do to
Right.
become a high performer? And they narrowed it down to 6.
Right.
And I truly do believe, because I've continued to research these, they continue to show up. So I do believe them to be true. So the first one is seeking clarity. And the seeking word is important because a lot of people just think clarity just somehow magically comes. Oh, I've got brain fog. I can't wait for it to clear. Well, got to kind of do something about that, right? You got to lift up a rock. You got to ask people. You got to challenge your perspective.
Yeah.
The strategy I use for that is creating a purpose statement. And that's 3 pieces. What are 3 words you want to use to define yourself? I am kind. I am curious. I am innovative. I'm inspiring. I'm motivated. I'm determined. I'm indefatigable, like whatever you want to do. Words that describe you as a person. Then there's 3 words or short statements that describe your interactions with others. I want them to know I'm an active listener, that I care deeply, that I'm listening. I am not distracted. I'm undistractedly, focusing on you, and you're the most important thing to me in the world. The third piece is a tough one to come up with because we tend to want to go motherhood statements on this one, and it's your so that. What is the result, the outcome, the wish, desire that you have for every single person who interacts with you in any way? A lot of people try to cheat and say, well, I'm going to create a purpose for my personal life and a purpose for my business life. I'm going to challenge you to make one for just everything. My so that is so that I can help as many people become happy, wealthy, and fulfilled. Those are the 3 things, mostly because I spent a lot of my life having none of those things.
Right.
I devote myself to making those opportunities available to people. So when you look at your purpose statement, you take those 3 pieces, and it's the purpose of my life is to be this, to interact with people in this way, so that this is the outcome that I achieve for these people. This is my greatest desire for everyone. So that one, when it's not a tagline, it doesn't go on your website. You write it on your heart and you write it on your mind, and everything you do has to be bounced off this thing to say, does it align? It's your plumb line, right? If no one knows what a plumb line is, it's basically you hold this thing with a weight at the bottom, and it's what creates an absolute straight line. Okay,
Right.
so it's absolute straight and narrow, keeps you going, and it's upon which everything is judged. So when I look at the work I do, I have to ask myself, will this work allow me to be this way, to interact with people in that way, so that I can achieve this final result? And if I don't say yes, 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 I don't do the work. I don't
Very
engage the
cool.
client. I don't say yes. I don't do anything. And this is where clarity comes from, because a lot of people
Yes.
don't have that baseline. So they
Yes.
don't
You're right.
know, they can't stop and anchor and go, no. So this is why they don't have boundaries. This is why they can't cope. This is why they have no foundation, why they're wishy-washy, shiny penny, is because they have nothing upon which to gauge whether or not they should or shouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I am so adamant about dream clients in a way that nobody else really looks at it. There's like ideal clients and perfect clients and all these other things, where mine is about, look, if this person is not a best friend, like I would have a real best friend in the outer business world, then I'm not going to work with them. Period. That's the way that I want to be able to show up in the world, because with
Mhm.
your statement, my so that would be that people don't sacrifice their life for their business. That's the reason
Sure.
why I do everything that I do.
Perfect.
So the only
Yep.
reason I want to work with somebody is because I understand that there's adjustments that have to go through, and there's painful times.
Hmm.
There's this ebb and flow sometimes, and only a best friend is going to get that. Only a best friend is
Hmm.
going to be mad at you one day, and the next day is like nothing ever happened. So to me, those kind of
Yeah.
relationships are very easy for me to navigate. But when it's just
Hmm.
a client whose credit card goes through and they're a really cool person, it's not a yes for me yet. It's not a yes for me. Like there has to be a
Hmm.
bigger alignment there, that
Hmm. Hmm.
I want to know what their mission is for. Well, like what are you doing all this
Hmm.
for, right? So I am huge on like what you even said, because I call it the dream client trifecta. What's the
Sure.
purpose that
Hmm.
who's the person that you want? What is the superpower that you have that is nothing to you? And are they looking
Hmm.
for this solution? Are they out there looking for this thing? And to me, I'm always saying the client first. Like it's all about the client. It has nothing to do with business. It has everything to do with who are the people that I want in my life, period. Forget business for a second. Who are those people? And if I can find those people and gather them into a campfire every Saturday night, and we just talk about stuff, eventually there's going to be a huge problem that continues to come up. And I'm like, it's just so easy, guys. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go
Mm-hmm.
put a program together and I'll show you how to do this, right? That's the way that I
Mm-hmm.
approach business. And so my clients, the ones that are attracted to that methodology or mindset, are easy sales. They're like, I totally want that. Great, then I can help you do that, because that's where the simplicity of my business is what I do. All of the other stuff in, normal funnel generations and all that, we don't need any of that, because all you have to do is gather the community, which is, curate the community, which is pillar number one of mine, serve to sell, and respect their timeline. That's it. If
Mm-hmm.
you just do the
Mm-hmm.
middle piece really, really well, serve to sell, right? And you curate the right community, then respecting their timeline is the hardest part, but
Yeah.
no sale needed. So I'm totally with you on
Mm-hmm.
that. Totally with you.
Yeah. Yep. That's what clarity is so important, because
It
without it, there's
is.
no focus, there's no productivity, and everything goes, down the sewer. So yeah. And
Yeah.
then, so the next one of the high performance habits is energy. Because if you don't have the energy to do anything, you ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
And so this one, there's so many different ways we can teach it. I do focus on the 4 arenas of health, but then I bring in a ton of methodologies, right? So Brendan's got the 4 arenas of health, which are movement, nutrition, stress, and sleep. But within those, I bring in, tenets from books like Outlive, from The
Okay.
Body Keeps the Score, from, all these different modalities that talk about our health.
Yeah.
And, because what you put in here goes in here, because there's
Mm-hmm.
a vein that goes directly from our gut up to our brain. We have more brain cells in our gut than we do actually in our brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of how we actually think. And so, when people talk about gut feelings, like, it's actually a thing, but we misconstrue it because we think, oh, like, I have a gut feeling, or is it just a strong emotional reaction? But what the heck is going on? And then one of
Yeah.
my clients, I can't remember what book she read it from. I don't know if it was Mel Robbins or something. Probably. I love that woman. Just wait 90 seconds and you'll know. Like an immediate visceral emotional response that is not a gut response will dissipate within 90 seconds. If you still feel it, that, oh no, that urge of like, no, this is definitely something, your body is telling you something and you need to be able to read it. But if you're putting garbage into your body, if you're not moving, you will have potentially an okay lifespan, but you will have a terrible health span. Sure, you'll live to 90, but from 65 on, your life is garbage, right? Because this breaks and that breaks, and you this ailment and that ailment, your quality of life goes down the tube. I want to be able to run around like a chicken with my head cut off until I don't. And just like la 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 la, bam, slam dunk,
Yeah.
right? Slam dunk me wherever. Like a go out on a high. So with energy, it's a matter of managing those 4 arenas. Because if you are taking good care of your nutrition and putting good things into your pie hole, then you'll do well in terms of on that side of things, right? So when you add in movement, some people call it exercise, and people quit exercise gym. Then they say, I don't go to the gym. And I'm like, I
True.
didn't tell you to go to the gym. I just said,
True.
you know what? Move, literally,
True.
at all.
Yeah.
Like, what should I do? Go for a walk. Does that count? Yes. Yes, it does. Right. And there's lots of different ways for you to then expand from there. Right. So you never start, we're going from 0 to high intensity workouts. So as a perimenopausal woman, high intensity workouts. So actually interval workouts. So you go slow, fast, but you go like slow to like almost max, slow, max, slow, max, slow, max for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then you lift heavy things, right? Because as a woman, we get osteoporosis unless we put pressure on our bones. And by putting pressure on our bones, it actually keeps them strong. So you can evolve into these things. And this is just my reality, right? My husband's reality is completely different, right? He's about joint management. He's about testosterone management, right? He's about all these different other aspects that once you start to get a baseline of, I'm just going to move, and then you
Right.
improve that by
Right.
1% over time, you
Right.
will get there. You should never make giant leaps in any of this stuff,
Right.
even in
Yeah.
nutrition. Like, micro shifting is the trick for anything in the energy side of things. Stress management is a huge one. A lot of people live in chronic stress and anxiety, but it is self-inflicted. So there's lots of supportive things out there, like you have adaptogens. You've got ashwagandha, you have reishi mushrooms, lion's mane. There's all these things that actually lower cholesterol. And I'm like, baloney. So I test it. And you know what? It works. It's great. And I feel like I sleep better, but I'm testing all these things and I'm researching these things and I'm challenging different ways for me to manage my stress. Because on top of that, I also do breathing and I get books like this, where at the beginning, like you and I were saying, my client said, "Oh, you're going to be investing in duct tape." And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Because you're going to have to tape yourself to the floor to be still." And then I'm like, "Okay, granted, it's not my superpower, but I'm trying."
You're trying.
So all that. So those things about managing your stress and not allowing your emotions to overrule the day. So again, we go right back to the beginning: emotional resilience. That's where it all starts. Because if you manage that, your stress doesn't get out of control. And of course, the last of the arenas is sleep, right? So don't have a TV in your
One of my
room. Don't
favorite
eat
ones.
after 8 o'clock. Yeah, and especially as I get older, it gets harder. It
Are
gets
you in a
harder and
are you
harder to sleep.
do you have regular sleep patterns?
Yep.
Cool.
Right as rain. 10 o'clock every night. Get up at 6. And I read before I go to bed. Sometimes I probably have screens on too much before I go to bed. But we don't have a TV in our room, so my body makes an association. This is the place for sleep. Yeah, but it's a matter of understanding the regenerative processes. Like I find when I drink alcohol, I do not sleep well. Right. So
Right.
I've cut it out completely. I've been alcohol free now for 21 days. And I've
Oh,
never done
nice.
that. Well, I did that for 33 years. Then I didn't do it at all for 16. And now I'm trying it again. Right. So, because I wanted to know, not because I'm trying to be like, oh, wow and wonderful, but I was struggling with anxiety. I was struggling with my sleep. I was struggling with some other aspects that I'm like, is it related to alcohol? And I needed to step away from that. And sleep was a big one. Right? I needed to step away from the alcohol to say, does it actually make a difference? Right. And as with most things like this, you have to wait 4 to 6 weeks before you really see the benefits of some of these changes.
Do you
But yeah.
I do you also wear, because I have the blue blockers as well. So I wear those at night when I'm going to watch TV. So yeah, but I'm talking about the other ones. They're orange. So at night, so the
Oh
ones that
no,
I'm wearing,
I haven't gone that much.
yeah, so they're Swan Wicks. Like say I have like a couple pair here. So
Mhm,
usually, like right now, if I wasn't on the live, I'd be wearing the orange ones, and then I have these as
mhm,
well downstairs when I'm watching TV. So it cuts out all the blue light more than these ones actually do, because these ones are
mhm,
the readers for the day. But so I'll do that during the night, and if I do go to bed with my iPad because I'm reading on my iPad a lot of times, then that'll cut the entire blue light out for me. So
sure.
I do
Yeah.
that. Um,
Mhm,
but then getting into the rhythm, that's what really woke me up. That's kind of I guess the pun is intended,
mhm,
was going to
mhm.
bed at the same time and getting up at the same time. Basically, it's
Yep.
not like very
Mhm,
rigid, but it's around the same time, and then everything began
mhm,
to become easier during the day because I used to
mhm.
actually have naps during the day, and that hardly ever happens unless I'm stressed and the triggers was like, "Oh, I don't want to do this
Mhm,
accounting. I'm going to go to sleep." That was my trigger. But other than that,
mhm.
and the other thing too was I used to drink like a lot of coffee during the day. So it was 6 cups, 10 cups a day, you know. And now I have one bulletproof in the day, and that's basically it. And I found myself, and this
Mhm,
has been going on for many, many, many years. I don't find myself having to have that nap in the day anymore, which is incredible
mhm.
when you do get into this whole health. Like, what does the movement look like? So I got to do more of the movement. I got my treadmill down here under the stand up desk
Mhm,
here, which is fantastic. So that gives me movement, and that's been helping as well. But you're right. Back to the
mhm.
whole point of you know people telling me, "Oh, well, you got to exercise more, exercise." And to me, it was a trigger. It was like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go do this. I was exactly like you
Yep.
explained. Exercise to me was gym and working out and all these hard things. Like I don't want to be. I don't need to have a six pack. I don't need to be buff and all these other things. That's not what I want to do.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
when it was positioned as movement, just move a little bit per day, everything changed for me.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with
Yep.
you. Collie,
Well, you know what? It's there's a sorry, did you want to say Colleen what she's talking
yeah,
about there?
Collie says, eat, move, be healthy. Paul Check, my best investment ever was a program designed in 2007 and still use it. And it keeps me healthy at 69. Love and soul hugs. Thanks, Collie.
Mhm. Yep. Any program that you use is the good program. I met a woman, she was 73, and in her 60s, she was told she has osteoporosis and that she'd have to go on medication. And
Hmm.
she's like, is there anything I can do to avoid it? And the guy's like, I mean, yeah, but you're not going to like it. You have to deadlift. You have to go to
Oh,
the gym and
wow.
you have to lift exceptionally heavy weights and you have to do bench press. Those are the two that she had to do. And she's like, if I do that, will I be able to avoid osteoporosis medication? And the doctor said, yes, that will strengthen your bones. So at 65 years old, she started to lift weights. And it was just little guys, right? She started with just the bar. And then she put on little five, what I call them little banana weights, right? And then you go to 5.5 to 10, and then away you go. At the age of, I think she was 73 or 74, when I caught up with her, she had 13 world records for
No.
deadlifts. The woman, I kid you not, she deadlifted 265.
No.
Yep. And she was strong and never needed
Wow.
any medication.
Wow.
So, movement
That's
is
impressive.
the number one life expander. Number one. If you want to expand your life and your health span, not just your lifespan, that's what you need to do. 70% of Americans do nothing. Zero. And that was from, I believe it was from the book Outlive, or it was from an article that I was reading. And I've just got a couple of notes here. 90 minutes a week. Well, 90 minutes a week of just walking, just mild exercise, nothing crazy, nothing berserk, will decrease the risk of literally every single disease.
Mm-hmm.
Every disease.
Mm-hmm.
Heart attacks. Yep, down. High blood pressure, hypertension, everything. Yes. Cancer, yes. Goes down.
It's amazing,
All you
like
got
how
to do
much
is move.
walking. Yeah, I agree, because when I started with this thing in the morning, first of all, it was like figuring out, when do I really want to do this, and what is it? The motivation to do it was hard. It was like, I
Mhm,
don't want to do it right now. I don't want to do it right now. So, but
mhm,
again, it was a trigger. But then as soon as I got on, it's amazing. You know this. I don't have to tell you, but anybody listening to this
mhm.
who think like, I don't have the motivation to do it. As soon as I started
You
walking, I
do.
could be dead tired. Within 2 or 3 steps, I'm like, this ain't so bad anymore. Like, it was just all of a sudden the energy
Mhm.
just went up almost immediately. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And so here's how I started this. This is, again, I was looking at triggers. Like, I don't want to go do this.
Mhm,
So how do I make this a habit, a
mhm,
good habit? So here's how I started this. I started it with my personal assistant. We had meetings at the beginning every day. Every day we would have a 15 to 30-minute meeting. Okay. So I'm like, I'm standing here. I may as well do something else. Right. So that was the
mhm,
whole trigger point. I got on, and it
mhm,
would be like 30 minutes, 45 minutes later. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm still walking. And so that got me
mhm.
into the habit. So anybody listening to this is, attach something that you're already doing, and
Yeah.
right, and then it becomes a habit. So it was easy
Yep.
for me to get into
Absolutely. I
that.
mean, yep. And the other thing to also factor in is I always recommend people do research on your gender and your time of life, right? So that zone two walking is what you're talking about. You get going, you're just like, you had a good, heart rates, but it's consistent. At a woman my age, because I'm approaching 50, that is literally the worst thing I could do. Absolutely worst thing I could do because it actually increases my cortisol. So for someone like me who that used to work for, my body is evolving and I need to do something a little bit different. And that's why the high intensity, the interval training. So the high, low, high, low, high, low,
Yeah, well,
that's
I don't stay
actually
at
what's going
one thing.
to
I
work for me.
gradually go up. So I'm at, I don't know what the
Right. But I'm
speed
just
is.
saying, I wasn't
Yeah,
using you as an example. I'm saying in general. So a lot of women
yeah.
here stay in zone two. That's the worst thing for you because it actually increases your cortisol. So it's quite fascinating when you start doing research. So
I know what you're saying
energy
now.
is a
Yeah,
big
cool.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah,
again,
it's a
it's just
good
it's
point.
just per person. Like men age very linearly. I was listening to Andrew Huberman podcast today, and his guest was saying that men age very linearly. There's never a point in time when you're like, I'm getting old. Women, there's a like, oh my God, boom, everything just goes fucking sideways. Oops, sorry, I swore. I
That's
really do
okay.
try to keep this PG. Anyway, so
We just
like
gotta
it's just
mark
like
it
at
so
the moment
Kath
of time you're like,
just
do
gotta
do 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 do. Yeah,
let my
whatever
EA
that,
know,
like
like, okay,
1 hour
mark
and 10
this one as
minutes.
profanity.
1 hour and 10 minutes. Yeah. Whoop. Anyway, but the point is, like there's a very clear point in time in which a woman's brain and her body just decides
Yeah.
we're done with the way anything you tried before. Yeah, we're gonna make it not work for you anymore. So, haha, new game. And then they're just starting to get into the research of what we can actually do with ourselves. So, yeah, box of chocolates. Women wake up as different people every day. You're welcome, gentlemen. So sometimes I
That's
tell my
classic.
husband I feel like a combination between a honey badger and a porcupine. So yeah,
That's classic.
delightful.
On top of that, with the
Okay,
ADD
so
and everything else, right?
oh God, and the autism and don't touch me. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Like someone give the man a medal and I don't know something, a new car. Okay, so
They're
the
amazing.
last four of the high performance habits. The next one is courage, which is doing what you need to do, even when it's hard, even when it
Mm-hmm.
looks difficult. And this is where we really tackle the boulders, right? So we try to tackle them at the beginning with emotional resilience and we work our way around. But now we're like, you're kicking all the boulders to the side. You have all of these tools. So now we're going to put them all to use all at once. And this is actually a process that I borrowed. I borrowed and adapted from the book Mind Over Mood by two psychologists. And I'm looking at it sideways. I can't read it from here. But it's like a book workbook. It's a wonderful book if you're really struggling with emotions that are kind of out of control, a lot of trauma kind of responses. And what this simply does is it allows you to isolate what is a situation for which you're having an emotional reaction. Like, I don't want to make calls, or I'm scared about my business, or, I'm worried about my future. And like, what exactly are you worried about? Oh, that's interesting. You just disappeared. Oh, there you are.
I hit the wrong button.
I was like, I don't know what button you hit, but
We're
I'm
off
talking
the
to a
air.
black screen. Okay, we're done. Okay, we're done. You didn't like what I had to say. Anyway, so
Oh
so
gosh.
yeah, so it's like, what's the situation? What are the emotions? And then you rate them in terms of their intensity and distortion quality, right? So an emotion that's really big. So there's no such thing as good and bad emotions. They're just big or manageable. Those are your options. So you can say, how big is it? Is it pocket sized, or is it like crushing your sweet little soul? And then there's several steps it works through in terms of challenging the validity of that, the realisticness of those things. Like, is it true or is it fiction? Are you kind of
Mm-hmm.
making it up because you're worried about it? Or do you know for a fact, oh, I don't want to call someone because I'm bugging them? Because you called that person and said, then they said you're bugging them?
If I call you, will that be bugging you?
No, because what I tell people, what? There's a cool invention on all these phones. It's called call display. Oh, look, there's my husband. Right? Call display. If I see you call, like, so say for instance, you and I are talking. My phone is on do not disturb. 0.0% of people can get a hold of me right now in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form, unless you are my husband. That is
Yeah.
the only way that that's coming through. Right. And by the way, he's upstairs and he knows, do not call, don't breathe, make no noises. Here we go. Right. Um, so what happened on there, I should really stop going down these rabbit holes. Anyway, I'm like on the cusp of getting my thoughts back together. We were talking about mind over mood. Dum. Yep, gone. Anyway, it'll come back eventually. So the mind over mood process, just bear with me. Trust me, that train does come around. I
Yeah,
just
it'll
wait
come back.
patiently for it.
I know exactly how it feels.
It does. Oh yeah. Anyway, but the idea is that you challenge, is it real or is it fake? Is it fact or is it fiction? Because chances are, I was talking about the
level of the emotion.
call display. There we go.
Oh no, the call
Wow.
display.
Now I'm just forgetting words. So what happens, my point is, if you call and I'm in the middle of this and I see the number, but I'm in the middle of something, I just don't pick it up.
Right.
You're not bugging me. I just don't pick it up.
Yeah.
And if I don't want it to ring, I can put it on a setting so that it doesn't ring. Right. So you're never actually, it's really hard to bug people these days.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really hard. So you just got to be challenging yourself on
what
it
make
is
up
that
a
you're
lot.
actually thinking.
Yeah, what you were basically
Yeah,
saying is we make up a lot of stuff that basically never comes true or never really is true. It's
well,
like the fear
because
of
we're
the
terrible.
here's what yeah, we're great, and
Yeah,
that's fun.
terrible at being psychic. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it's funny though because when we talk about looking at the future or what does it look like if you get this? What happens if this is a success to you? And we have trouble visualizing that. It's just uncanny that every single one of us can visualize the bad stuff in the future, right? We can always
Mm-hmm.
look at, well, my
Mm-hmm.
business will fail, my marriage will, I'll have a divorce, and I'll have all these stuff. Well, you can visualize all the bad stuff, and you're telling me you can't visualize all the good stuff. Like it's just uncanny.
Yeah. It's just not how we're wired. We are
I
wired
know.
to, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, my anxiety works for me because I'm a planner." No,
Yeah.
you're not. You're about to suffer tremendous health problems, burnout, and you're going to be very disappointed with your life because you have held yourself back for, I don't know, everything.
Yeah.
So, anxiety is not good planning. Anxiety is exactly what it is. It's worry, and you're trying to predict the future, and we are terrible predictors of other people and future events,
Oh
also
yeah.
weather.
100%.
Right. So yeah. So when it comes to courage, that's a process that I walk people through. Again, it's called Mind Over Mood. You can check it up on the internet if you want to go through theirs. I modify mine a little bit. I bring in something called detective thinking, which allows you to ask yourself, how would other people react to this? And would they react the same? Would they
Yeah.
hold themselves back? Would they, have the same thoughts? Would they be afraid of doing this? And part of that's coming back to acceptance.
Cool, cool.
So yeah, so those are the first three. We've got clarity, energy, and courage. Four is productivity, which we've talked a lot about today already. The only one that I want to share is that an additional strategy is from a speaker who spoke at one of my events. Her name is Taryn DeBroy. She's from Saskatoon in Canada. And she taught us something called CEO blocks. And it's basically time blocking, but you start 3 months into the future. So you identify what are your priorities: family, business, money, health, blah, blah, blah. Then you create like between 3 and 5 blocks. And you can't put it in your calendar today because you're already like jammed up. But 3 months from now, it's pretty open. So what you do is you take these 3 to 5 blocks, these CEO blocks, and you say, okay, I'm going to work out here. My family time is here. My business time is here. And you do that, and you repeat that as all the way to the present, as close as you can get until you hit resistance, which is
Cool.
meetings that you already have booked. And then you can kind of mess around with it. But what it does for you is it allows you to already have pre-planned time in your calendar for the things most important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that those become boundaries and you
Mm-hmm.
protect them, and then you work around them. So that's a CEO, it's called CEO blocks. It's a
Nice.
great strategy because everyone thinks they can't do time blocking because they're looking at it too soon.
Right.
So don't worry about this week. Don't even worry about next week. Start your time blocking when your calendar is more open, less current obligations,
Great
and then
strategy.
work your other stuff around them. So I absolutely love that one. So of course I've got my Adore strategy. I've got my Art of Little Chunking. I've actually built a planner called the Little Chunker because I thought that was funny. It takes an annual goal, turns it into quarterly objectives, monthly targets, weekly action plans, and daily dues,
Yeah.
inspired by the book Measure What Matters by John Dewar.
Nice.
So, or Doer, I don't know how I pronounce the man's last name. It's a really dry book with really good stuff. So you got to really power through that thing.
Yeah. Or just buy your thing.
um,
You've already powered through it.
yeah,
That's
I
what
just do my stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Take my
that's one
course.
of the things that we do
Yep.
really
You can
well
do
is
that.
taking all that information and consolidating it and just putting it into a very
Yeah.
easy to use format. At least that's what I do for my clients. I know you do that as well because
Oh,
we're
yeah.
learning so
Yeah.
many new things. And
Hmm.
like when I look at all these productivity books, I have some of my favorites where a lot of and a lot of it, the way that they look at things. One of them, I can't remember which book it is. I think it's called Start Finishing. I think it's that one where I got this concept. But I look at this now. I look at everything differently. That everything is a project, and if it has more than one thing to do, like one little task, it's a project. And I never looked at things
Mm-hmm.
that way because I'm generally a procrastinator. And so I never would get things done, and I would always be blaming software or something like that, or a method. And
Mm-hmm.
once I adopted this, and this won't work for everybody, it's just how I did it, but it was like everything is a project. Now it's more of I can break things down, just kind of like what you said. So maybe doing my
Mm-hmm.
taxes or something is, I have all of these sub projects, and some of them are only two things to do, but it makes me look at
Mm-hmm.
it. And of course, the dopamine rush is there, right? Because wow, I finished that project. Holy crap, I'm getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
It changed
Mm-hmm.
the game for me. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like it's so important for everybody to look at all these different methods and figure out what is it
Mm-hmm.
that's going to move the needle for you when it comes to doing things
Mm-hmm.
and getting them done. For me, it was that everything
Mm-hmm.
is a project.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the interesting things I learned about dopamine, because I always thought dopamine, like ADD is dopamine deficiency, right? So, that's what I
Yep.
have. And I
Yep.
totally get it, right? It's loose ends, land, and all that kind of thing. One of the things I learned was the way to overcome the dopamine drop. Because once you achieve something, if you don't have something immediately following it to take your energy, your
Yep.
dopamine drops off a cliff. And that's why
Yep.
people, they go on vacation, they come back and they're like, boom,
Yep.
they hit the deck, right? Every December I say to my clients, please, 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 please have something planned for January the 1st, because that's going to keep you going. And 50% of them do, and they do just fine, and 50% of them don't, and they
Mm-hmm.
wallow for an
Yeah.
entire month and they can't get themselves going. So the trick for ADD people in particular, but for everyone, is always have your what's next ready.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm building my certification. I'll be launching it in March. Very excited about it, bringing high performance coaching and training at an affordable level to the entire world, right? This is my goal, aim high. But I already have my next thing. Already know once I build that LMS system, I'm going to have these other little things, and then I'm going to go CE accreditation, and then, and then, right? And it's all sequential. So I'm not overloading myself and I'm being careful time wise, but I've always got something to look forward to. The anticipation of something is more power mentally than actually doing the thing. Going on vacation is less powerful emotionally than anticipating the vacation itself. So if we use that part of our brain, and we've always got our what's next there, it doesn't have to be a big what's next. It can be just a little thing, but you're like, never have nothing. Never have nothing
Oh,
next.
for sure.
Because if you
That
do,
that's not a problem at all for me.
yeah.
That's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why I set it up the way it is. And it's funny you said the word next, because even in the status levels of Notion, one of the statuses is next. It's I have a to do,
Mhm.
then I have next, and I have later, I have backlog, like I have all kinds of things,
Sure.
the projects are all next, 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 so I can see them. So
Mhm.
that gives
That's
me
great.
that whole dopamine rush to the next one. Not that I'm
Mhm.
looking for it, but I know that wow, that is I just finished these projects and I only got this one to do. Oh, that's the next one I need to do. These ones are all to dos, you know.
Excuse me.
So when I bless you,
Mhm.
when I
Thank
change
you.
this one to in progress, the next one will be next, and all these to dos. So I'm
Sure.
always have something to do, which keeps my brain
Mhm.
happy. I'm just I can't sit still and do nothing, which is like you talked about vacations. I can't stand vacations. I
Mm.
can't stand them. Like there's no I don't want to go to a vacation and just sit there and do nothing. I'll blow
Oh,
my brains out.
I do.
Yeah, no, I'll blow my
I
brains out.
went to Aruba in December, but I had a crazy fall. I went to Aruba in December and I did literally nothing. I didn't read. I
Yeah.
didn't work. I didn't do a single thing for 6 days, and I came back so
Oh
refreshed. But
God.
you got to know when it's free and when it's not. But that's for me. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we're getting through it. Two more left.
Let's go.
Influence is the next habit of high performance, and this is just getting people to say yes to you, right? Being able to, like, you serve to sell. I do the sell without selling, right, by helping people and all that kind of a thing. But you have to also understand the psychology of people,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a conversation, how do you get people to lean in? How do you get them to narrow choices? So part of my two favorite sort of conversation starters is, how would you feel if, or just imagine, which are the adult equivalents of once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
Because if you go into feelings and stories, the inner critic shuts up. right? So if
Yeah.
you're trying to get someone to say yes to you for whatever reason, like say I'm trying to, get someone to engage with my coaching because I really feel like I could work with them and have a big impact in their lives. Giving them the nuts and bolts of the program is probably more overwhelming than anything else. And they're just waiting to say no. Versus how would you feel? So I've got one gentleman, his daughter's a, rep level volleyball player. I said, how would you feel if you could make $200,000 in your real estate business and always go to every single one of your daughter's events? And he'd
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then they immediately flip into, but I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, well, good for you. I do. I know you can do it, right? Because I've done it for all my clients. All of my clients come to me for, something to do with how they manage their time. And then we just open up the abilities for them to, make money because they're just holding themselves back. If I just pull out the barricades that they've put up for themselves, they will naturally do the work they should be doing. That's my job, is to pull down the barricades that I can't do that, or I don't know how, or whatever. So influence is understanding how the mind works and
Mm-hmm.
how people will say no, and don't put yourself in a situation where someone's just going to clap back at you. And the other favorite one, these are from Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones. I love
Oh
these.
yeah, great
Um,
book.
Amazing book, like
So
really,
I
really
have it
helpful
right.
because
There it
I'm
is,
not good at sales
right
conversations.
here,
Yeah, mine's like over there. Yep,
right in
Exactly
front.
What to Say. That's a fantastic one. And I love his 3 option close because
Yeah,
people have, they experience the paradox of choice. So
yeah,
you're like, at this point in the conversation, you can do nothing, you can do this, or we can work together to accomplish blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
And then the kicker, which is important for me because I'm a talker, is to ask them the question, which one gets you what you want? And shut up. Stop talking. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing. And allow them to kind of filter through. And now instead of all the choices they could make, they have 3. And the obvious choice is you. And you just wait it out and you just let them finish. And if they come back with objections, you deal with the objections and then you go back. Okay, so back to the 3 choices. You can do nothing. You can do this, which is, go with someone else or do something yourself or whatever. Or you can engage with together and we will accomplish blah, blah, blah. Do you see now which one gets you what you want? And
Mm-hmm.
then you wait. Silence is brutal for ADD people. And
Yeah,
like all these different thoughts go through my head, but you just have to kind of chew in your cheeks or sit on your hands or I don't know. Squeeze your eyes shut real tight. It'll look weird, but whatever. Whatever stops you from talking, just stop talking.
yeah,
These are some of the things to understand about how the human brain works. And if you can understand the psychology of decision making, then you'll understand how you can help people to see what you want them to see without pushing and without being salesy.
yeah. That
So,
was a big
that
when I
power of
yeah when I
influence.
read the Brendan's book and went through some of the that was my the one that I focused on the most was influence because I've been doing
It was
that
great.
my whole life. So I was
Hmm.
able to be influence or sell or whatever and didn't
Hmm.
understand what the superpower was for me. And
Hmm.
for me, it's not about anything else except just asking the right questions, and
Yep.
the more I have scripts about stuff, the worse it is for me. Not that I don't like prompts and stuff like from Phil and these things, but I tried all of that for many, many years and it just threw me off
Hmm.
my game and I didn't understand. So I pull back. I ask questions that open up a conversation and then I let them ask me all the time. Like, how do I work with you? What do I do? And that
Hmm.
seems to work, at least for me. Again, there's no one way of
Hmm.
doing it, but I
Hmm.
I believe I'm really good at influencing people just by showing up and
Yep.
being myself. And I never understood that because I had to ask my clients, why did you buy from me? Why do you let me coach you? Why do
Hmm.
you let me do this blah blah blah? And they would tell me like more insight about how I do things. There was even
Hmm.
here's an interesting thought, an interesting observation, and how I influence someone to move forward in my coaching group. Okay. So a lot of times when we hear something from the same person, we just shut off. It's like, I've heard you say this
Hmm.
before, or I don't like the way your voice sounds today, like whatever it is. And I didn't know this before, but I have a gift of bringing other people into the conversation to help me influence you to go do what I'm actually asking you to go do without knowing that I'm doing
Hmm.
it. It's not a conscious
Hmm.
thing. right? And I never picked up on that before, but I heard so many people, so many of my clients tell me that, like, you know what, when you're not getting through to somebody, I notice that you bring in other conversations to help that person understand, and all of a sudden there's a breakthrough. And I'm like, so I had to
Hmm.
zoom back out and then actually watch myself coach. I'm like, holy crap. Now I see what I'm doing. But because I know that now
Hmm.
consciously, I try not to know that because I don't want to. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna switch to the strategy now. But it was just an interesting thing that you brought up that triggered that
Yep.
thought. Anyway, last one, and then we
Yep.
get
And we're
to,
all going to have our
and then we're
things.
gonna go.
Yeah, that's right. Ooh, yeah. Well, we're going to. So the last one is necessity. And that just is committing to this with all your heart because it's that
Mm,
important. And commitments, there's self-commitment and then there's commitment to others. It's easy to commit to others. It is brutal to commit to ourselves because we don't announce it to the world that we're committing to something for ourselves. So we can hide, we can let ourselves down. And it's insidious and terrible. So when I teach this, I talk about language, right? So I want, I wish, I could, I should, I'm going to, I need to, I want to, all that kind of stuff. Your brain does not actually trigger the commitment part that actually says, okay, we're going to go do this. It's I am. I am. And if you really want to see this through, you actually call yourself the end state you're looking for. So I am a millionaire. I am a gym person. I am a healthy person. I am, someone that moves. I am kind. I am all these things. And if what you want, if you're saying like, I want to be this, I want to be kinder, I want to be more strategic, your brain is not firing. It's just waiting there for you to actually make a decision of what you're really going to do. It's the spin doctor that says, I want, I wish, I hope, I'm going to, need to, should. The only way to trigger your brain to actually commit to something is by saying, I am. And that's it. It's unequivocal. This is who I am because it brings you into the present. And your brain can only deal with what's right in front of it. It's like, oh, you're this now. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I better like fire on all cylinders to bring everything up. And one of the fun things to do, and I've tried this and it works so incredibly well. Let's say you're trying to do something or you're worried about something or you just don't know how to, you're kind of in a pickle and you're not sure what to do. Before you go to bed, you tell yourself, like right before you go to sleep, you say, I've got the solution. I have the solution, which sounds ridiculous because you don't, clearly, because you're worried about it. But if you tell your brain right before you go to bed, when your brain is very, very receptive, either you envision something being done. So my certification, I envision it being completed and selling out and accomplishing all the beautiful things I wanted to accomplish for people and for their lives. So I'm picturing that with all my sweet little soul. And then I go to sleep. And while I'm sleeping, my subconscious acts as if like that's what's already happened. And it kicks in and it fires and it actually solves problems while I'm sleeping. So when I wake
mm-hmm.
up in the morning, I'm refreshed, but I have these new ideas and like where do they come from? It's because I'm using my subconscious because 95% of our decision
Yeah.
making actually happens in the subconscious, not the conscious. But no one knows how to use it. But that's how you use it. And that's how
Well,
you
see,
can
this
remain committed.
you were saying, like, it's funny because I just pulled this out. This is a book. It's so shot up.
Mhm.
This usually sits beside my bed because my brain never shuts off. So
Mhm.
many times during the night I'm up writing things down, and I was just going through this the
Mhm.
other day of looking at all the stuff of that I wrote down from, like, this has been at least 10 years, and
Mhm.
looking back and thinking like, holy crap, I thought this way 10 years ago. I'm still in
Mhm.
alignment with all this, and but that's not the point. The point is, to your point, that I go to bed and I'm always thinking about something going on, and I may not go to bed with that. That's a really great suggestion, which is like, I already have the solution to this, but I'm always asking myself,
That's
what's
the
the
trick.
solution? Yeah, what do I need to do to get this done or whatever? And I just go to sleep, and then
But that's the
boom.
trick. But just time out. But it's flipping that. Not what am I going to do? I've done it. You've
Yeah,
already done it. You don't try to work it out because now you got stress. You just say to your brain, I trust myself. I've done this. It's great. It's wonderful. And you envision the end. You envision having figured it out when, as you're going to sleep, you haven't. You envision the thing being solved and you
yeah.
go to sleep and you allow your brain to actually do that work for you. It takes a lot of trust.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that too because I don't feel as though I'm stressed when I'm going, and maybe it's because I have trouble with visioning too. Like, I don't, like, you. I'm jealous of you because you can see, here's what I'm going to do in the next 5 years. I don't have that. More of this is like I have a bigger picture, right? But it's more of,
Sure.
I don't know what I'm going to do after Atlas. Like, this is what I want to do now. It'll be $1 million this year. It'll be 10 million like in the next year, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's all I'm working on, because I've always operated my life as, this is the big thing I want, and I don't know how to get there, but I
Hmm.
know I'll get there. So I kind of understand that, or have that in my brain all the time, because I would get challenged constantly. How are you going to do that from people, right? And I say, I don't know, but I'll do it. And so I don't go to bed constantly telling myself that, but my brain already knows it, or my subconscious understands that. Like, I
Hmm.
expect it to work. Like, that's just the way my DNA is. I expect it to work. I know there's going to be failures and there's going to be this, but I'm definitely going to try, consciously going to sleep and saying, "I already got this done. It's all good. See you in the morning."
Yeah,
Right?
I've already figured it out. And like, you don't have to have the vision. Like, I have a very specific vision for a very specific thing, but you don't have to have that. You can just say, I have figured
Okay,
it out
cool. Oh,
and I
cool,
know what
cool.
I'm doing. That's it. And that's it. Full stop. I figured it out and know what I'm doing, and it feels absolutely fantastic.
So,
That's all
okay.
you got to say.
So just before you go, like, what would it look like then? If I, okay, so for me, for this business, for the business of this year, if I don't have a vision for the business of where do I want it to be, like, what do you want to be at the end of in 12 months from now, then what do I go to bed
Mhm.
with? I just go to bed with, business
I
is
figured
great.
it out.
I figured it out.
Yeah, but just I figured it out. Isn't it great? Doesn't it feel wonderful to know that I have figured this thing out? Good for
Interesting.
me.
Interesting.
Yippity yippity hoo. Yeah, you don't. It doesn't. If you don't know, worrying about knowing is going to throw the whole thing off. So the idea is you trust your brain that it knows what it is
Nice.
that you
Okay.
want to, like, in the vision is in there. There's something blocking it when you are conscious.
Nice.
There's a
Okay.
block.
I'm in. I'm in.
Your subconscious has no blocks.
Right.
And that's how you get around it.
Totally cool. I get that part of it.
It works.
All right.
It's pretty neat.
I'm in. I'm going to start
Okay.
doing it tonight. I'm in. Thank you, Rebecca.
That's
As
good.
always,
You're
you're
welcome.
awesome. Yeah,
I try.
so this has been a great conversation as always. Thank you. Hopefully everybody else got some gold from this, like I have. I've already written down major notes at the beginning. There was another breakthrough. I got to go back and watch that again. But thank you for that. Appreciate you.
Oh,
We'll
thanks for
see you
having me.
again.
It's always a joy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
too.
will. You know it. That's a threat and a promise.
Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you soon.
I will. Take care, Joy. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.